to episode 20 of the Noble Character Crafts podcast. My name is Amy, and I am coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live on a farm with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, March 23rd, 2018. Thank you so much for joining me today. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. I really appreciate you joining me today. This is a podcast all about my life as a knitter, a crocheter, and a hand dyer of yarn. You can find me online on Instagram and Etsy at Noble Character Crafts. You can find me on Ravelry at Noble Character. And I also have a group for this podcast on Ravelry under Noble Character Crafts Podcast. In that group, you will find show notes for this episode and previous episodes, as well as several other threads for various chatter and the current make-along that I am hosting right now. There is a finished object thread and a chatter thread in the Ravelry group for that as well. The make-along is called the I Think I Can make-along, and it is for any project that you would like to try your hand at that you have never tried before. So, for example, I already completed a brioche project for the first time, and I am hoping to start a sticking project soon, but this mal is going on until the end of April, so there's still plenty of time to start a new project. But this is for any craft that you would like to try that you have never done before. So it could be that you've never tried crochet before, or you've never tried spinning before, or weaving, or something like that. Or it can be a specific skill within those crafts. So like I said, I did brioche, and I'm hoping to do a sticking project as well. But there are some people that have knitted their first sweater for the first time, or maybe done their first color work project or something along those lines, something that you've always put off and you haven't tried yet. So this is your chance to give that a try. And like I said, there is a chatter thread for this make-along that you can talk about what project you would like to try and encourage one another on in the different projects that we are trying. And then there is also a finished object thread, so you can certainly enter your finished projects once you complete them. So there are already quite a few people joining in on this make-along, which is so exciting, and I would love to have you join as well. So thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to be with you again today. You can maybe see that I am wearing my finished object for this week. So maybe it's a little bit hard to see because it is a little small, but this is the willow lace cowl. And this was a test knit that I did for Fox and Folk. And it was very quick to make. It took me just a week to make it. And that was while I was making so many other projects as well. So I was not working on it exclusively, but still it worked up very quickly. So this was made in worsted weight on my hand-dyed yarn on my carrying base, which is 100% non-superwash merino wool in the life-giving colorway. So I'll take it off so you can see a little bit better. So it is worked flat, and then once you complete it, you join it in the round. And it has this nice I-cord edging on both sides. And then of course the beautiful leaf ivy pattern that works its way around. And then you just seam up the back. It's not so neat, is it? my seaming job isn't quite so neat. It was a little bit tricky for me to match up the design. So I started seaming it together, and then as I got to the middle, my vines weren't matching up perfectly. So I had to go back a little bit, rip it back a little bit and try again. I just used a mattress stitch, which is my go-to seaming stitch, which I usually like it because it's very seamless looking, but on this one you can really see that. But that is my error, not the pattern's error. But it's going to be on the back of my neck, so it's not. I don't think anybody will ever notice that, so I'm not too concerned about it. It was worked on US 8s, which are 5mm needles, and like I said, it was super easy to complete. So I really enjoyed this. One of the things that I especially like about this pattern is that it's a close-fitting cowl. I really like that because, you know, it really does help to break the wind when you're wearing it outside on a blustery day, just to keep the wind off of your neck. So I really like that it sits close to my neck and is still tall enough to pull up. In fact, I can pull it up over my face. You know, if I was outside and it was really cold, you could easily pull it up over your face, or even, you know, you can even pull it up over your ears because it's tall enough. But anyway, I'm really, really happy with this knit. So I think I'll get a lot of use out of it because I really don't have, I don't have a cowl that's, I don't think I have any cowl actually. No, I don't have a cowl scarf. So I'm really happy to have this. This project took 1 skein of yarn, a little less than that. It actually took 70 grams of yarn. My carrying base is 218 yards and it's 100 grams. And I have 30 grams left over from my skein. So that's nice that you can work it up with 1 skein of yarn and have a little bit left over. And this also matches my cloche hat that I made a few months ago. So I'll be able to wear that as a set to match. So that's exciting too. Okay, on to works in progress. My first work in progress has moved on to my ratty old Mary Inglebright tote bag because it has gotten too big for any of my project bags. And it is my Lily cardigan, which if you've watched for a while, you've seen many times because I've been working on it since January 1st. But it is a large cardigan, so I was really, really hopeful that I would have this finished by this week, but it's not done yet. But that's okay. It's getting so close. So this is a beautiful pattern by Amy Self-Linland of Amy's Little Kingdom. She has a podcast as well as a few designs on Ravelry. And this again is called the Lily cardigan. And I have finished with the body and finished the 2 sleeves. And now I am working on the ribbing that goes all along the sides here and the neckband. And I'm working a 1x1 twisted ribbing. I am using size, for the main body I use size 6 needles, which are 4mm, and right now on the ribbing I am using size 4 needles, which are 3.5mm. And I am using Knit Picks palette yarn in the Aurora Heather colorway, which is 100% Peruvian Highland wool in fingering weight. So also this is my 8th ball of yarn. I ordered 8 and I am on my last skein. So I think I'll be fine because I am halfway through the, maybe even more than halfway through the ribbing here, and then all I have to do is make 2 pockets. It's all scrunched up on these needles right now, but it lays, it goes down straight normally. It's just bunched up right now. But anyway, there are 2 pockets on the front. So a little bit about working this ribbing. It was a bit of a challenge. I have absolutely loved every single stitch of this cardigan. I have loved this project so much. But the ribbing along the edges here was a challenge for me. I mentioned last time that I podcasted that picking up stitches is a little bit of a challenge for me. The problem that I usually have with picking up stitches, for one, a lot of times it tells you a specific number of stitches that you need to pick up, and then a lot of times I'm off on my count, so that's a frustration. But that wasn't the case with this cardigan because she just gives you kind of an estimate of how many you should have. Of course, depending on how long you make it or what size you're making it will vary. She just says to pick up stitches every so many rows to give you a guideline. So that wasn't the problem. But my other problem with picking up stitches is that so many times I have a gap in between the knitting and then where I've picked up and start working. There's just a gap there on the seam right where I picked up all the stitches. So I started working the ribbing and I had that gap and it was just not looking nice. when I've had that gap on socks before, like when picking up the heel gusset stitches, then I a lot of times have gone back in and seamed up that gap a little bit tighter so that you can't see a gap as well. But of course I didn't want to do that all along this, and I was like, this just can't be right. I must be doing this wrong. And I don't know why, I've never looked up a tutorial on how to pick up stitches before. I guess I just figured that I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. I've only been knitting for a year, so I'm not an experienced knitter by any means, but I don't know, for some reason, I never looked up a tutorial to see how to pick up stitches properly. But I finally did. So this week I went on to Very Pink Knits and looked at her video on how to pick up stitches. And I never knew that when you picked up stitches, you were supposed to pick up 2 strands or go through both bars of the stitch that you're picking up. I thought you were only supposed to have 1 strand on your needle, just like you only have 1 strand on your needle when you have a regular stitch that you're knitting. You know, there's only 1 strand of yarn. So that's what I thought that you were supposed to do, but you're not. You're supposed to pick up 2, and then that helps there not to be a gap. Good to know. Good to do things the right way. So anyway, there's no gap now, which is wonderful. But anyway, I had worked about this much of the ribbing before I realized maybe it wasn't quite that much. I worked about 7 rows of ribbing. And then I just was not happy with how it was looking, and so I ripped it back and started over again. But when you pick up, well, at least when I picked up all of these stitches with both bars over the needle, it was so tight. That was, I think, the hardest knitting I have ever done. The first row, after I picked up all the stitches, then I started doing the ribbing on those picked up stitches. That was so hard. Well, part of the problem also was that I picked up almost half of the stitches wrong. You know, I had put them on the needle the wrong way. But so I had to work out twisting them the right way because I'm doing twisted ribbing, and so I had to, I don't know, it was kind of hard to figure out how to work them. Anyway, I had to fix a lot of twisted stitches so that I could do the ribbing. Anyway, so that was a challenge, but then the actual stitches were so tight on that first row. Once I got past that first row of picking up all those stitches, it was a breeze, but it's working up just fine now, but that first row was so hard and it took me a long time. I did find that it was a lot easier if I went down to a smaller needle to pick up all those stitches and then knitted it with the correct size once I started working the stitches. But anyway, that was a challenge. My other challenge, and so I had this problem the first time I picked up all the stitches and started doing the ribbing, and I'm afraid I have the same problem again, but maybe it will block out. Maybe you guys can look at this and let me know what you think. So I'm a little bit worried about this section right here because it looks like this is pulling up. Let me see if I can hold this a little bit better. So this is the bottom of the cardigan right here, and this is where this part meets, and I'm just afraid that there's going to be this little, see that? I want it to come down and be flat. Maybe I'm hoping that I can block it out, but I'm wondering if maybe I should have picked up more stitches here so it wouldn't be pulling on it so much. And I don't want to rip it out again. I really don't. So I'm going to just keep working it, and hopefully blocking it, I can get that to lay straight right there. Let me know if you know if that's going to be okay or not. And if you know it's not going to be okay, I don't know if I want to know. No, if you know it's going to be a disaster, let me know, and maybe I'll have to rip it out. I don't know. Oh, that'd be horrible if I did. It'd be horrible if I had to go back and do that again. But I would also be disappointed if I didn't do this right after all the work that I've put into this cardigan. But anyway, I'm hoping it'll be okay. I think it'll be okay. There's not that much pull, I hope. Anyway, it's working up okay. Right now it's fine. And I'm so close to the finish line. And I know I'm gonna love this cardigan once it's done. So anyway, hopefully next time I podcast it will be completed. I'm hopeful. So anyway, here's just one more look at the cabling on the back. So such a pretty pattern. I just love it so much. So pretty. So last time I podcasted, I was done with one sleeve, and I was, now I don't remember, but about halfway through the second sleeve. And I forgot to mention last time that I used one complete skein of yarn for each sleeve. So this was not cut. This is just the end of the skein. So there are 50-gram skeins of yarn, and yeah, I went to the very end, so that worked out well. Okay, my next work in progress is in my Allison Barnes collection project bag. And this is my Doodler shawl, which is by Stephen West. And I am doing this along with Christy Glass. She is hosting a knit along for this pattern. And she is only working on this project on Sundays, and that is what I am doing as well. I don't have it on needles right now because this is worked on size 4 needles, and I borrowed them for the ribbing of the Lily cardigan. So I just have stoppers on there for right now. Okay, last time I podcasted, all tangled. Okay, last time I podcasted, I was right there where that pumpkin pie progress keeper, which is from Amanda of Little Bitty Delights, that's marking where I was last time. So on Sunday, unfortunately, all of our quite a few of our family were sick with sneezing and sniffly noses and coughs. So we stayed home from church, which meant that, and I also was feeling a little under the weather. And so anyway, I got a lot of time to rest and knit. So I got quite a bit of work done on this project on Sunday, which was so nice. So so this pattern started with these shorter rows over here of the light color, and then the bands of the darker color. And it continued to grow this way. And then I worked this cable section all along the length of this side. And then I picked up stitches all along the bottom with this dark purple color. And I'm working back and forth. As you can see, the rows are, they're short rows on the bottom here too, so you don't have as much of the depth on this side as you do on this side. So anyway, I am using my own hand-dyed yarn on my Radiant base, which is 70% superwash merino and 30% silk. The lightest color is called Embrace. The deep orange is called Enriched, and the deep purple is called Honor. So I am really enjoying this. I have just started wedge 3 of this third section. And the pattern has a lot of variations that you can do at this last section. You can stop after the third wedge, or if you have enough yarn, you can go on to a fourth wedge. And then there's several different kinds of finishing work. There's a picot edging that I think I really would like to try if I have enough yarn. Or you can just bind off regular, without any embellishment. Or I think the other option is to bring in this other color for some, I don't know, a different band at the bottom or something like that. I haven't 100% decided how I'm going to finish this project up, but I did put it on a longer cable. I got a 50-inch cable to put this on, and yet it still is a little bit bunched up there. I can't show the full wingspan of it, but anyway. I'm really, really loving how it's coming out, and yeah, I think it'll just be such a interesting, shape to this shawl that I hope I really get a lot of use out of it. I love the colors, so hopefully I'll get to wear it with a lot of my outfits. And it has been such an enjoyable knit, really a fun and easy knit. These rows now here at the bottom are so long. I think I'm up over 400 stitches now on my needles. Let's see. Oh, 516 stitches right now I'm at. So it takes a very long time to get across a row, but it will be I think it'll be a nice size once I get it blocked out and everything. So I really like large shawls, so hopefully I will, get a lot of use out of this. And it should be done fairly soon. I would think within the next 2 or 3 Sundays, maybe. We'll see how much time I get. I don't usually get as much time as I did this week to work on it on a Sunday, but anyway. It's a fun knit. Okay, the last work in progress that I have done anything with this week is in a My Creative Frenzies project bag that I love so much. And these are my socks, which I haven't picked up in a few weeks, so I was able to work a little bit on these, which was nice. I am working these 2 at a time on size 1 needles, 2.25 millimeter. And let's see. I am using, well, for the cuff I used my own hand-dyed yarn on my pitter patter base, which is a 75-25 blend on my Healing colorway, which is the color that I dyed to help to raise money for breast cancer awareness. 50% of the proceeds from that colorway are donated to breast cancer research. Anyway, the last time I showed you these, I was right there where that ice cream progress keeper is marking. That also is from Amanda of Little Bitty Delights. She does such great work. And I am using, for the main body, I am using Knit Picks Felici on the Hopscotch colorway. This is the first pair of socks that I have used Felici for the majority of the sock. I did use some Felici in a previous pair of socks that I made, but I only used it for the top, for a top section, and then the rest of the sock I did in a solid color. But anyway, so this is the first time I've used it for an entire sock, and I have heard stories of how Felici has knots in it lots of times, and how then the stripes can get off. And unfortunately, I had that happen to me. So I now have this ball because I really want them to match. It kind of drives me crazy. I'm one of those people that it drives me crazy when socks don't match. So I really, really want them to match. In fact, I'm off like just a few stitches. You know, the color changes on one of them, like half a row sooner than the other sock, but I don't think that's going to bother me too much, hopefully. Anyway, so I had to, okay, there was a knot, and so then I had to pull out the skein to find, oh, I know. There was a knot, and then the color changed. So the knot was in this blue section, and then where they tied it, they tied blue to it, so it's real tricky. You think it's going to be just fine. But as I've heard with other people before have had the same problem, it started working backwards. So it was supposed to go from the blue to the purple, and it went from the blue to the light sage green color. So that would have been really dumb if it would have gone from this and then just started working backwards. Like people have said, Felici is a reasonable price for sock yarn, but that's just kind of ridiculous. I mean, I don't know, if you've paid for self-striping yarn, you'd think that, I don't know. I expect that it should stay in pattern, even if there is a knot, but it didn't. So anyway, I have this little bit of yarn that will work on one of the socks, and then I have one skein that is going to work backwards, and maybe I'll have to pull it from the outside instead of the inside now, which is also kind of a pain, but anyway. So I'm not super happy with that, but I'm going to make it work anyway. Okay, I cast on 64 stitches for the ribbing. I did 2x2 ribbing for 20 rows, and then I increased to 68 stitches for the leg of the body because 64 stitches are a little bit too tight on my foot. So I went up to 68 and am using the Blueberry Waffles sock pattern, which is the first time I've done this pattern. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. And I really love the texture that it is making. I am planning to do an afterthought heel on these using a new pattern that I haven't tried yet for a new to me afterthought heel. And I'm planning to use the Healing colorway for the heel and the toe as well. And I like the leg of my socks to be pretty long, like I'll probably go down to about here before I put in the heel. So I am as I've mentioned before, I'm pretty tall, and a lot of times I wear leggings a lot, and a lot of times my leggings are too short, and so I really like to be able to pull my socks up to cover that bare leg section of my leg a lot of times. So that's why I especially like longer socks, as well as I like to wear them with my boots that come up about that tall too on my leg. So I like to wear them so that these go to about the same height, if not a little bit longer than my boot, so that they poke out a little bit higher than my boot. So anyway, that's just my preference. Lastly, I have some yarn from my shop that I would like to show you. Every week I try to show a set. What I've tried to show in the past is a set of 3 skeins that would make a nice shawl set from my Etsy shop, from my hand-dyed yarn. This week I'm going to show you one of my faded kits. I have 3 different faded kits in my shop, and they vary. This set comes with 5 colors, and my other 2 faded kits come with 7 colors, but they're easily adapted. I've had several people do custom orders with me for faded kits, depending on if they want to use them for a sweater, or depending on the pattern that they're using. I can adjust the number of skeins for each color or each shade of the fade, and I have done a few custom faded kits as well, which I'm glad to do. I love working with people to get the colors that they want. I am struggling to pick all 5 of these up at once. Okay, there we go, kind of. Not so pretty. This is really hard. Here, I'll just hold them in a bunch. Okay, so this is my Bountiful faded kit. And as you can see, it starts with the light tan color, and it fades all the way down to this darker brown. And then each shade is speckled with deep orange, teal, and brown. You can see it best on this lightest color. And these, as you can see, are all labeled and ready to go because they are going in the mail very soon. These are on my Lenora base, which is 100% superwash merino worsted weight. All of my yarn comes with a handmade stitch marker. So you can kind of see on each of these I have a different stitch marker. As we get darker and darker here. That one says made with love. It's hard to see it with the glare. Little tassel. All of my yarn also comes in a drawstring bag with my logo hand stamped on it. And each of my colorways is named from a proverb. So just as an example, again, this is the Bountiful faded set, and this comes from Proverbs 22 verse 9, which is, "Whoever has a bountiful eye will be blessed, for he shares his bread with the poor." So I always print the proverb that each colorway comes from on the label so that you can have a reference for where my inspiration was for that. And my business name, Noble Character Crafts, also comes from Proverbs, so that's why I name all of my colorways off of Proverbs as well, just so you know. And I am so excited to announce that I now have updated my shop to include my new base, which is an MCN base, and it's 80% superwash merino wool, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon, and I have named that base Solace. So I have updated all of my colorways that are repeatable. There's actually only one colorway in my shop right now that is not repeatable. It's just available on one skein that I have. But all of my other colorways are repeatable, and they are available on all 9 of my bases. So please go check that out if you'd be interested in that new MCN base or any of my other bases. I have several different bases ranging from fingering weight to worsted weight and everything in between. So please go check that out if you would like to at noblecharactercrafts.etsy.com. So that's all I have for this week. Like I mentioned, we have been a little under the weather here in our house. I still kind of am sniffling a little bit. I took some Dayquil today to try to give me a little boost. But I think all of the kids are doing pretty well. I think I'm the only one that's hanging on to the sniffles. So hopefully that will pass for me soon as well. If I would go to bed earlier at night, I'd be fine, but I got to stay up until midnight knitting every night. I'm just terrible. I'm terrible. I'm such a night owl. And then, at night, that's the time that I get to knit. And so it's really hard for me to turn off the knitting podcast and go to sleep because I'm usually watching a knitting podcast and knitting until midnight. And then I'm finally like, oh yeah, I should probably get to sleep. Anyway, but we've been doing well other than the little sickness that we've had. We've continued to do our schoolwork every day. I haven't given my kids much of a break, but we only do schoolwork in the mornings. I homeschool our children, and we only do schoolwork in the mornings. Once lunchtime comes, we're done. Everybody takes a little rest in the afternoon, and then they have playtime in the later on in the afternoon. So I don't work them too hard, but I don't take a break ever. I mean, pretty much ever. I don't take a lengthy break. Even through the summer, I continue to work with the kids because I just think it's easier for all of us if we just do our routine in the morning and then we're done at noon and we can relax the rest of the day. So again, just so excited for spring to come. I've mentioned that for a few weeks now, and we did get some more snow, which so many people around the world have gotten more snow recently. As spring came in, we still had snow, but I know it's not going to last long, and spring and summer will be here before we know it. So just trying to enjoy every day as it comes. So I hope you all are enjoying your day, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would really appreciate you giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to this channel if you would like. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.